You know, we all know Christmas. We see the lights, we hear the songs, we have the traditions, but have you ever stopped to wonder how the story of a single birth in a pretty forgotten corner of the world became this global phenomenon? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into today, the what and the how behind the Christmas story.
I mean, it's a fair question, right? How does a story about one baby in one tiny, obscure town end up being told and celebrated on literally every continent 2,000 years later? It sounds, well, kind of impossible. But the answer, believe it or not, starts centuries before any of it even happened.
So, to really get the what of Christmas, we have to go way back. The story doesn't actually start in a manger. It starts centuries earlier, with what you could call an ancient blueprint, a whole series of incredibly specific predictions that, piece by piece, built a profile of a figure who would change the world, the Messiah.
This blueprint kicks off way back around 1500 BC with a man named Abraham. He's given this incredible promise. One of his descendants would be the Messiah, and through this one person, all peoples on earth would be blessed. Did you catch that? A global scope was baked into this story from the very first page.
Okay, but that's still a pretty wide net, you know? Abraham had two sons, Ishmael and Isaac. So for this blueprint to be useful, it needed to get a lot more specific. The question was, which family line would carry this promise forward?
And right away, the blueprint narrows. The scriptures point directly to Abraham's son Isaac. So this funnel of possibility gets tighter. We've gone from all of humanity down to one specific family line, and it's about to get even tighter still. Isaac also had two sons, Esau and Jacob. And again, the prophecy makes a really specific choice, and it's a surprising one. It defies tradition by picking the younger son, Jacob. There's even an ancient text that predicts, a star will come out of Jacob. And from here, the blueprint gets absolutely laser-focused. Out of Jacob's 12 sons, the prophecy points to one, Judah. From the entire tribe of Judah, it singles out the family of a man named Jesse. And out of Jesse's sons, it lands on the royal line of King David. Do you see what's happening? Over 1,000 years, the identity of the Messiah is being pinpointed with just incredible precision. But this blueprint wasn't just about who this person would be. It also included these stunningly precise details about the where, the how, and even the nature of the birth itself. The predictions were about to get even more wild.
So, around 700 BC, the prophet Micah names the exact town. Not Jerusalem, the capital city. Not some other important place. No, he names Bethlehem, a tiny, seemingly insignificant village. The prophecy pinpointed the exact birthplace centuries before it happened.
Then, the prophet Isaiah adds another layer of detail around the same time. He describes the way the birth would happen, a totally unique sign. A virgin would conceive and give birth to a son. And this right here gets to the absolute heart of the question, what is Christmas? The very same prophecy that said this child would sit on David's throne also predicted his divine nature, calling him mighty God and everlasting Father. The blueprint wasn't just pointing to the birth of a king, it was predicting the arrival of God himself in human form.
So, okay, what are the odds of all this just happening by chance? Well, a mathematician named Peter Stoner calculated the probability of just 8 of these prophecies being fulfilled in one person. The answer is 1 in 100 quadrillion. I mean, that number is so big, it's almost impossible for our brains to even grasp. To help us understand it, Stoner came up with this analogy. Imagine you cover the entire state of Texas with silver dollars, 2 feet deep. Now take just one of those coins and put a mark on it. Then, you blindfold someone, let them wander all over the state, and ask them to pick up that single marked coin on their very first try. Their chance of success is the same as one person fulfilling just 8 of these prophecies by sheer luck.
So, the fulfillment of this ancient blueprint, that's the what of Christmas. But that still doesn't explain the how. How did this story explode from that one time and place to become a global movement? For that, we have to look at the catalyst.
You see, the birth of Jesus wasn't just an event. It was an act of mission. The sources actually frame him as the very first missionary, someone who left his home to enter a world that needed him. This one idea of crossing boundaries with a message becomes the engine for everything that comes next.
And before he left Earth, Jesus gave his followers a very clear command, and it's known as the Great Commission. This was the directive that would light the fuse and turn a local story into a global movement.
And the wording is so explicit,
Go and make disciples of all nations, not just your neighbors, not just people who look and talk like you, all of them. This single command became the charter for 2,000 years of global expansion.
So, what happens when ordinary people take a commission like that seriously? Well, the result was one of the most explosive and durable movements in all of human history, spreading from its epicenter in Jerusalem out to the entire world.
I mean, just look at the pace and the scale of this thing. Within a decade, the message is in Africa. A decade after that, it's in India. By 432 AD, it gets to Ireland. By the 600s, it's in China, and in 1492, it crosses the Atlantic. And this wasn't some centrally planned empire. This was a decentralized movement, powered by everyday people, following a single command.
So how did they do it? Well, if you're going to spread a message to all nations, you've got to speak their languages, right? The growth in Bible translations shows this commitment in action. It went from just 10 languages in 300 AD, and the number just kept growing. It's a really clear sign of the drive to make the Christmas story accessible to absolutely everyone.
So when we pull all these different threads together, the ancient predictions, the historical events, and that command to share it, we start to get a much clearer picture of why Christmas is what it is today.
The message was never, ever meant to be exclusive. From the very first Christmas, the announcement was that this news was for all the people. The global movement that followed was really just the fulfillment of that original promise.
So, to wrap it all up, the global reach of the Christmas story isn't some historical accident. It's the result of this clear sequence: an ancient, detailed blueprint, a precise historical fulfillment, an explicit command to go to all nations, and a 2,000-year global movement of people who took that command seriously.
And that leaves us with one final thought. Regardless of what you personally believe, the historical impact here is just undeniable. What does it mean that a single story from a tiny town could inspire 2 millennia of art, culture, and a global movement that continues to shape our world today? It's a pretty big question, and it's definitely worth pondering. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.